Veltha Prime was quiet. Too quiet. Governor Relvan stood on the balcony of the command tower, looking at the horizon. The sky, once clear and golden, now carried a strange dark haze. He could feel something was wrong. Deeply wrong. Down below, the streets were almost empty. Shops were closed. Families stayed inside. Even the birds that usually filled the air with sound were silent now. It was as if the whole planet was holding its breath. Behind him, the door opened with a soft hiss. His assistant merrily stepped forward with fear in her eyes. Governor. Another outpost went silent. Outpost 9. No distress signal. Just nothing. Relvan turned to her. That's the third one this week. She nodded slowly. Yes. And now the colonies on the southern ridge are reporting strange ships in orbit. Relvan looked back at the horizon. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he spoke in a low, heavy voice. Send the signal. Merrily froze. You mean the High Priority Council beacon? Yes, he said. Activate it. Full emergency request. Make it clear we are under threat. Request immediate aid. But Governor, they said they wouldn't interfere. In local affairs, they'll interfere, Relvan said, almost to himself. They have to. We're part of the Accord. We've followed every law, paid every tax. They won't abandon us. Merrily bowed her head and rushed out. In the deepest level of the tower, the signal chamber was already humming. Blue lights blinked along the sides. A massive antenna stretched high above the building, ready to reach the stars. A young technician tapped the last command into the console. Signal ready. Encoding now. Merrily gave the order, send it. The signal flew into the stars fast, sharp, and full of fear. A red-coded distress call meant only one thing. Veltha Prime was dying. 3 days passed. The skies stayed quiet. No reply. No message, not even static. Veltha Prime waited and hoped. Governor Relvan stood in the war room with his commanders. Maps of the planet floated in the air, showing more and more outposts going dark. Some were wiped clean. No life. Signs. Others had strange energy readings too advanced. Too unknown. There is something out there, the science officer said. We can't identify their ships. They don't match any known faction. They're not pirates, asked one of the guards. No, pirates don't move like this. This is organized. Relvan turned to his team, and still no answer from the council. Everyone shook their heads. They abandoned us. One general muttered. No, said quietly. They're waiting, watching, but they won't send their own forces. Then who? Another officer asked. Who will come? Suddenly, an alarm blared. The war room turned red. Lights flashed. Unidentified ships entering orbit. A technician shouted. 10, no, 20 ships. Large ones. Dark holes. Number. Known codes. Everyone in the room froze. Relvan's eyes narrowed. Put them on screen. A moment later, the main screen showed the sky above Veltha Prime. Black ships. Massive. Floating like silent giants. Their surfaces didn't shine. They absorbed the light around them. No flags, no colors, no messages, the technician whispered. They know not council ships. Everyone stared. Even the air seemed heavier. Then a voice came through the speaker, cold, mechanical, human, signal, received. Operation begin, Deathworlders deployed. The room fell silent. No one moved. The words echoed in their heads. Deathworlders. That name was only heard in stories, warnings, rumors, beings. From a world too dangerous for life. Beings that had turned their own planet into a war zone and survived. Beings from a planet called Earth. In the skies above, the black ships began to open. Dropships, sleek and armored, fell toward the planet like dark comets. Each carried Deathworlders inside humans. The first dropship landed near the capital. A loud thud shook the ground. The citizens watched from windows, hiding behind curtains. The door opened with a hiss. Out stepped 5 humans. Each one wore heavy black armor, covered in strange symbols. Their helmets glowed faint blue. Weapons were strapped to their backs and arms. They didn't speak. They just walked, calm and cold. The people of Veltha Prime whispered from behind. Wars, are they here to help? Why do they look like soldiers? Why are their ships so dark? A small girl hiding with her mother asked. Mama, are they monsters? Her mother didn't know what to say. Governor Relvan met the Deathworlder team in the capital square. He stood with his guards, trying to stay calm. The lead human stepped forward. His armor looked different. He was the commander. Relvan spoke. First, I am Governor Relvan of Veltha Prime. We are under threat. We requested aid. Are you here to help? The human stood still for a moment, and he spoke, voice deep and controlled. Mission. Secure colony. Neutralize threat. That's good, Relvan said. We welcome your help. Can we work together? The human didn't answer. He lifted a small device and scanned the area. Then he turned to his squad. Fortify location. Begin deep scan. Prepare for enemy contact. The soldiers moved without a word. Some placed strange machines on the ground. Others moved into buildings and began scanning. It was like watching machines at work. Cold, fast, efficient. Relvon turned to his assistant. They didn't even ask what we know. They act like they already know more than us. Merrily whispered Governor. What if they do? That night, the people of Velthor Prime didn't sleep. The humans worked through the darkness, placing defense towers, scanning the ground, setting traps. They took control of the city's power grid. No one stopped them. Every citizen watched from the shadows, wondering, who are these beings? Why don't they speak much? Why do they move like they've done this before? Some were thankful, others were terrified. A child asked his father, why do they wear armor all the time? The father replied, because maybe they never learned to take it off. Far above the planet, the lead human ship watched everything. Inside the command center, Commander Arik Gray looked at the growing data on the screens. Multiple enemy signals on outer rim, his AI said, cloaked, moving in fast. Arik didn't flinch. Let them come. He tapped his wrist. Send a message to all squads. Combat mode, Alpha. This is not peacekeeping. This is full engagement. His second-in-command asked, do we tell the Velthari? Arik looked at the planet below. They already know something's wrong. Soon they'll learn why Earth doesn't send diplomats to war zones. Back on the surface, a boy ran into his house, breathless. Mother, I saw them building something. Big guns there aiming at the sky. His mother looked outside. Sure enough, the Deathworlders were building strange weapons. They pointed straight up toward the stars. Governor Relvon stood on his balcony. Again, watching everything, he whispered to himself, what have we brought to our world? Then, a voice came from the tower speaker. Unidentified enemy ships entering high orbit. Defense systems online. Velthor Prime is now under Earth combat protocol. The sky lit up with red warning lights, and the people of Velthor Prime realized something terrifying. They had asked for help, and Earth had answered. But Earth didn't send peacekeepers. Earth sent Deathworlders. The skies above Velthor Prime were no longer calm. Massive black ships floated silently above the clouds, unmoving like mountains in the air. Their surfaces had no light, no markings, just endless shadow. The people of Velthor Prime, who once believed the stars were peaceful, now stayed inside their homes with doors locked and lights dimmed. The Deathworlders had landed. No one dared to stop them. In the central city, Deathworlder squads were everywhere. They didn't talk much. They didn't explain themselves. They walked through the streets in groups of 4, wearing the same dark armor, scanning every building, every street, and every citizen they passed. They didn't smile, they didn't wave, they just moved. Governor Relvon stood at the edge of the capital square, watching a Deathworlder vehicle roll past. It was long, sharp-edged, and armored with thick plating. Strange symbols ran along its side. The vehicle made no sound, even though it moved fast. Relvon turned to Merrily, who stood beside him with a datapad. Have they said anything new? She shook her head. No. Their commander gave a short briefing this morning. Just for words. Colony security is priority. Then he left. Relvon looked out at the Deathworlder squad, now entering the government building. They're not here to talk. They're here to take over. Merrily whispered. But they're still protecting us, aren't they? Relvon didn't answer her. The citizens watched from windows and rooftops. That they had mixed feelings. Some whispered that the humans were monsters. Others said they were the only hope. Many didn't know what to believe. In a quiet corner of the city, a young Velthari boy named Lintek climbed out of his home and followed one of the patrols. He stayed far back, hiding behind walls and crates, moving silently. He was curious, too curious. The Deathworlders led him to a strange area, the city's old power station. It had been shut down for years. Now it was active again. Lintek hid behind a metal beam and watched. The Deathworlders placed strange machines along the ground. They activated energy screens, deployed small flying drones, and created a wide circle of defense. In the center of the circle stood a tall black pillar, glowing blue at the top. The humans surrounded it and began tapping commands into their wrist panels. Lintek leaned forward to see better and accidentally stepped on a metal pipe. Clank. Instantly, every human turned toward the sound. Before Lintek could move, 2 soldiers were on him. They moved fast, too fast. In seconds, he was pulled into the circle, held gently but firmly by one of them. A third Deathworlder stepped forward, removed his helmet. A man, tall, scarred, with gray eyes like steel. His voice was low but not angry. You shouldn't be here. Lintek's voice shook. I just wanted to see. The man looked him over, then nodded to the others. He's just a child. Let him see. The soldier stepped back. The man pointed at the glowing pillar. This is a combat shield generator. Once it's active, no orbital weapons can penetrate it. This station will protect the entire city. Lintek blinked. You're building shields. For us. The man gave a slight nod. That's our job, but you don't even know us. The Deathworlder knelt down, his armor creaked slightly. We don't need to know you, we only need to know you're not the enemy, Lintek whispered. Are they coming? The real enemy. The man's expression darkened. They're already here. Back at the Capitol Tower, Relvan received a message from the Deathworlder commander. The message had no greeting, no sign-off, just one sentence. Prepare for deep scan of all government systems. Full access required. Relvan frowned. They're scanning our records, Merrily read the line again. It says they need everything, even private files. Why? Before she could answer, the tower's lights flickered. All screens went black. Then one by one, they came back with a new symbol on each. A circle with a vertical line through it. The Deathworlder emblem. Mer gasped. They've taken control. Relvan stood silently. They're not allies, he said softly. They're an occupation force. Just then, a loud boom echoed from the southern end of the city. Everyone in the tower turned toward the sound. More booms followed. Explosions. Mer ran to the window. Enemy forces spotted on the outer edge. Another officer shouted, the shield isn't ready yet. On the screens, dozens of small black ships dropped from orbit. Not Deathworlder ships, these were different. Sleek, sharp, and fast. They began to attack infrastructure power nodes, defense towers, even water lines. The Deathworlders moved instantly. They didn't wait for permission. Their soldiers deployed across the city, forming walls of steel between the enemy and the civilians. Gunfire filled the air. Flashes of red and blue exploded. Across rooftops. The enemy forces were fast, but the Deathworlders were faster. Their aim was perfect. Their armor absorbed damage like stone. In minutes they pushed the attackers back. Merrily stared at the screen in shock. They're winning so easily. Relvan's voice was low. They've done this before. In a shattered marketplace, 2 Velthari citizens were trapped under rubble after the blast. Fire burned nearby. The sound of battle echoed around them. Then, heavy footsteps approached. A human soldier appeared, tall, armored, weapon ready. He moved toward the rubble without a word. With powerful arms he lifted the broken beams and pulled both Vel to safety. One of them coughed, weakly saying, "Thank you." The Deathworlder paused. Then softly he replied, "Stay low. This isn't over," and he ran back toward the fight. In the sky, the enemy ships tried to escape, but the Deathworlder anti-air guns activated. Silent beams of light shot upward, cutting the ships apart with perfect aim. Within 10 minutes, the attack was over. Every enemy ship destroyed or captured. No Deathworlder had fallen. Later that night, Governor Relvan stood at the same balcony where the story began. The sky was now lit with human patrol ships and watch drones. The stars were hard to see. Behind him, Merrily spoke quietly. They saved the city. Without them, we'd be gone. Relvan nodded. Yes, but they're not like us. What do you mean? They didn't celebrate. They didn't even rest. The moment the enemy was gone, they started scanning again, building more, preparing. Merrily frowned. Like they expect more. Relvan looked out into the dark. No. Like they know it's coming. Deep underground, in a hidden Deathworld command bunker. Commander Eric Gray reviewed the enemy weapons. His second-in-command stood beside him. These weren't raiders. Their tech is too advanced. Coordinated strikes, targeting infrastructure, not people. Eric nodded. This wasn't an attack, it was a test. The other officer whispered, "You think someone sent them to see what we'd do?" Eric's voice turned cold. "Yes, and now they know we're here." He tapped a button on the table. "Bring up Council Watch List. I want every Velthari communication scanned. Find out who tipped them off." The officer hesitated. "Are you saying the attack wasn't just by outsiders?" Eric didn't look up. "I'm saying the real threat isn't above us. It's already inside the colony." Velthor Prime was now under Earth protection, but it didn't feel like peace. The black warships still hovered in the sky like giant beasts. Human soldiers marched through the streets, silent and sharpened. They didn't smile. They didn't ask for thanks. They didn't stop moving, and more strange things were happening. Power stations that hadn't worked in years were online again. Human engineers rewired entire blocks in hours. Drones flew over rooftops, scanning every signal, every movement. Loudspeakers repeated only one message. This colony is under Deathworlder security protocol. Do not interfere. Comply with all orders. Governor Relvan watched it all from the command tower. He hadn't given permission for any of it. No one had. And still, no one stopped them. Inside the main Deathworlder command center, deep beneath the surface, Commander Arik Gray stood over a glowing table. Screens floated in the air, showing every street, every building, every communication tower. Nothing escaped the human's eyes. A young Velthari technician was brought in by two soldiers. His name was Kael'ja. His face was pale, his hands shaking. Commander Arik turned toward him, expression unreadable behind his black helmet. Your name is attached to the central data hub logs, Arik said. You had root access last cycle, Kael stammered. I was checking power reports. Just normal reports. Arik placed a small cube on the table. It projected a hidden file from the city's network, one that had been sent to an unknown address 2 days before the enemy attack. The file contained detailed defense layouts of Velthor Prime. We traced this leak to your terminal, Arik said calmly. Why? Kael's voice broke. I didn't send it. I swear. Someone else used my access. Please, I'm loyal. The Deathworlder's eyes didn't blink. He tapped his wrist. A drone floated down and scanned Kael. Red lights flickered, biosigns consistent with stress and fear. The drone reported. No trace of deception, pheromones detected. Arik stared at Kael for a moment. Then he spoke to his officers. Clear him, but keep him under watch. If he's innocent, he might still be a link. The soldiers nodded and led Kael away. Arik turned back to the data screens. They've already compromised the colony, he said. We need a full sweep, all data, all citizens, no exceptions. His second-in-command asked, even the government tower, especially the tower, Arik said coldly. At the top of the government tower, alarms began to blare. Governor Relvan rushed to the control room. What's happening? Merrily answered without looking up. They've taken the tower's core systems. They're bypassing security. All files are being copied. Relvan's hands clenched. That's classified government data. They can't just... Before he could finish, the main screen changed. A new symbol appeared. A circle with a vertical line through it. The Deathworlder seal. Then Commander Arik's face appeared. His voice was calm but firm. Governor Relvan, this is not a request. Your systems are under review. We've identified a council data trace inside your security logs. Someone in your team sent information to the enemy. Everyone in the room froze. Relvan stepped forward. You're accusing us of treason. No, Arik said. We're confirming it. Then the screen cut to black. Mer Ali turned to him, voice shaking. Governor, if that's true. Relvan said nothing. He stared at the dark screen, his mind racing. Who among them would betray Velthor Prime? On the outer edge of the city, another Deathworlder squad moved through a quiet neighborhood. The buildings were old, no lights, no sound. The team leader, Lieutenant Reese, raised a hand, scanned for life signs. A drone flew ahead, scanning each building, then it stopped. Unknown. Biosign detected below ground. The team moved in fast. They breached the door of an abandoned house and rushed down into the basement. What they found was not a person but a machine. A long silver device sat on a metal table, humming quietly. It pulsed with red light. Reese tapped his helmet. Command, we've got something. Looks like a beacon. Commander Arik's voice came through instantly. Send visuals. Reese scanned the device. Symbols on the side were not Velthari. They were council codes. It's a signal transmitter, Reese said. Hidden under a civilian home. He paused, then added, Sir, it's still active. Arik's voice grew sharp. Shut it down. Now. But before Reese could move, the beacon began flashing rapidly. A high-pitched sound filled the room. The soldiers jumped back just as the beacon exploded. The basement shook. The building above collapsed in fire and smoke. Reese and his team survived barely. But now they had proof. Someone inside Velthor Prime was feeding data to the enemy and trying to hide it. That night, the sky changed. A dark wave of ships entered orbit, twice as many as before. Velthari citizens ran for cover. Emergency sirens wailed. The humans didn't wait. Missile launchers rose from the city's edge. Drones launched in every direction. Anti-air towers locked onto targets. Commander Arik stood in the center of the war room. .com and focused. Targeting locked, an officer said. Permission to fire. Arik didn't hesitate. Fire. Streams of light shot into the sky. Explosions bloomed across the clouds. Enemy ships fell like rain. The second battle had begun, and it was worse than the first. In the Capitol Tower, merrily huddled in the lower shelter with other officials. Dust shook from the ceiling with every blast. She held a small screen, watching Deathworlder helmet cams live. One showed a squad storming a warehouse full of enemy drones. Another showed a hand-to-hand fight between a human and a strange reptilian creature with glowing eyes. The human one in 10 seconds merrily whispered, "They're not soldiers. They're predators. They're trying to keep us busy. Why? To move something." He turned to his console. "Scan the outskirts. Look for move. Fast. Low to the ground." A moment later an alert flashed. "Commander, we found it." A massive vehicle was speeding toward the north border. Inside it thousands of encrypted data drives, and sitting next to them a Velthari official. Arik stared at the screen. "Who is that?" The face became clear. His voice grew cold. "Council. Liaison to VAR, the one who was supposed to be watching Earth's activity. He wasn't reporting to Earth, he was reporting on Earth. Deathworld Earth." Gunships scrambled. They intercepted the vehicle just before it reached the forest border. A short fight followed, quick, brutal. One-sided. TEVVAR was captured. He tried to hide, denied everything, but the drives didn't lie. Every message he'd sent, every plan, every secret shared with the enemy, every request for Earth's weaknesses. He didn't care about Valthur Prime. He only cared about pleasing the Council. Commander. Arik stood over him in the prison cell. TEVVAR hissed, "You have no right to judge me." Arik leaned close. "I'm not here to judge you," he said. "I'm here to end this." Then he walked away. Hours later, the Deathworlders held a public broadcast. The people of Valthur Prime watched from their homes as a simple message played. "Your colony has been compromised. The enemy walks among you. Earth will protect this world, but protection means control. We are not here to ask, we are here to win." And the last line struck the deepest. Trust was broken. Now comes protocol. The screen faded. The people knew the truth. This was not the help they wanted. This was Earth's way. Code. Powerful. Absolute. Valthur Prime tried to return to normal. Shops reopened slowly. Schools resumed with guards at every door. Citizens walked the streets again, but always under the shadows of black armored Deathworlders. The humans never left. Their drones hovered overhead, their scanners hummed in every district. Their patrols moved like clockwork. To some it felt safe, to others it felt like a prison. Governor Relvan sat in his office, silent, watching the clouds drift over the city. He had lost control. The Deathworlders didn't answer to him. Earth had taken over. And now Valthur Prime waited for what came next. That night, under the cover of heavy rain, something came. No alarms, no lights, only silence. On the western edge of the colony, 3 guard towers blinked offline one by one. At first, no one noticed. Then a Deathworlder patrol failed to check in. Then another. By the time the warning reached command, it was already too late. In the city's central sector, a small girl named Keelori walked with her mother near their home. The rain soaked their coats as they hurried through the empty street. Suddenly, the streetlights flickered. Then they went dark. Keelori looked up. Mama. Her mother held her tight. "It's okay. We're almost home." They turned a corner and froze. A shadow stood at the end of the street. Tall, thin, wrong. Its body shimmered like a reflection that didn't match reality. It stepped forward silently. Its feet didn't make a sound on the wet ground. Keelori whispered, "That's not human." Then, without warning, it rushed at them. Her mother screamed, but before it reached them, something else appeared. A flash of light, a roar of metal. A Deathworlder slammed into the creature, knocking it through a wall. The girl screamed. Her mother pulled her back as 2 more humans appeared, weapons raised. Their helmets locked on, targeting the creature as it tried to crawl away. But it was too late. The humans opened fire. One shot, no mercy, across the colony. Dozens more of the creatures attacked. They moved like shadows, fast, silent, deadly. They crawled through pipes, climbed walls, slipped through shields. Some had claws like razors. Others could mimic voices, even faces. They didn't speak their own language. They copied Velthari citizens. They made families doubt each other. Confusion spread fast. But the Deathworlders were faster. They didn't panic. They didn't retreat. They activated Combat Protocol 0. City lights went red. Defense towers shifted positions. Drones deployed metal barriers, closing off entire sectors. The humans moved through the darkness like they were born in it. They fought without fear. They fought like they'd trained for this moment their entire lives. In a burning building near Sector 9, Commander Arik Gray moved through smoke and wreckage. His rifle was low. His visor scanned for movement. His squad followed behind in tight formation. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Help, please." They turned towards the sound. A small Velthari boy stood near a wall, shaking, covered in dust. Arik didn't lower his weapon. He stepped forward slowly. Identify yourself, he said calmly. The boy cried harder. I'm lost. I don't know where my mother is. Arik's visor blinked. The scanner didn't register a heat signature. No heartbeat. He raised his weapon again. Last warning. The boy looked up and smiled. Then its skin melted. Its eyes turned black. Its body twisted. It leaped at Arik, but he was faster. 3 blasts later it was gone, burned, melted, erased. His squad didn't speak. They moved on. They had seen this kind of creature before, not here but somewhere far, far worse. In the command center, Merrily watched the battle feeds. Her hands shook. She had never seen anything like this. Not even during the first 2 attacks. She turned to Relvon, who had come down into the bunker. Things, she whispered. They're not soldiers, they're hunters. Relvon's voice was weak. The council knew. That's why they sent no help. They didn't want to get close. Merrily looked at the screen. A Deathworlder squad was torching a nest full of twitching alien eggs. They didn't warn us, she said. They fed us to them. On the roof of a destroyed medical station, a lone Deathworlder sniper stood still, watching the horizon. Through his scope he saw the enemy gathering, hundreds of them, no ships, no tanks. Just shadows. Crawling. Spreading. They weren't coming to conquer, they were coming to consume. He tapped his command. We've got a surge. Incoming wave, 10,000 plus. The reply came back cold. Understood. All forces prepare for hard contact. No retreat, no surrender. Inside the secret Deathworlder vault below the capital, Arik opened a long black case. Inside, something massive, covered in dark armor plating and glowing red cores. One of his officers stared. Sir, are we really deploying those? Arik nodded. Veltha Prime's survival is no longer about safety, it's about extinction prevention. He activated the core. A deep hum filled the room. Begin launch sequence. All juggernauts to the surface. A few minutes later, the people of Velthor Prime saw something they would never forget. The ground opened. From underground bunkers, massive walking machines rose, each one the size of a building. Their arms were loaded with plasma cannons, railguns, and pulse launchers. Their heads glowed like molten stars. The juggernauts were awake, and the battle began. The shadow creatures screamed as the machines stepped forward. Deathworlder ground troops moved alongside them, coordinating fire. Lasers cut the sky. Flame cannons cleared entire streets. One juggernaut stepped onto the front line and released a shockwave that shattered stone. The enemy rushed forward but couldn't break through. The machines didn't stop. The humans didn't stop. And soon, the shadows began to die. After 7 hours of fighting, the final nest was located under the city's old museum. Arik's team dropped in through the roof, weapons hot. Inside the nest, they found something unexpected. A large alien device. It pulsed with green light. A signal repeater. It wasn't made by the shadow creatures, it was made by the council. Arik stared at the markings. Then he spoke into his mic. Confirmed target. This wasn't just a random invasion. This was planted. We've been baited. The explosion destroyed the entire nest. But the truth remained. Veltha Prime wasn't just under attack, it had been set up. Someone high in the Galactic Council had planted the enemy there, just to see how Earth would respond. They hadn't expected Earth to win, and they certainly hadn't expected the humans to dig this deep. But now it was too late. Earth knew the truth, and Earth wasn't going to stay silent. Veltha Prime was still standing. The shadow creatures were gone, burned, blasted, buried, but peace did not return, not really. Now, something worse had taken root in the minds of the people. Doubt if the council had planted those monsters. Then who among them had helped? If the enemy came from the outside, who opened the doors from within? Inside the secure Deathworlder bunker, Commander Arik Gray stood over the remains of the alien device recovered from the nest. Symbols on the side matched those of the Galactic Council. Merrily and Governor Relvon were present as well, silent and tense. This device, Arik said, was activated weeks before the shadow attacks. Long before we arrived. Relvon frowned. Then, they were preparing all this in advance. Arik nodded. Yes, and someone here knew. Merrily looked pale. You mean a Velthari, possibly more than one, Arik said. We're scanning all records now. Every file, every message sent out of this colony in the last 2 cycles. Relvon's voice trembled. Our own people working with the enemy. Arik turned toward him. His tone was sharp but quiet. You were already betrayed, Governor. Now we find out by who. The next day the broadcasts began. Deathworlder ships hovered above major cities, projecting large holoscreens for citizens. Mandatory identity scan in public squares. All data records will be matched. Anyone hiding will be assumed hostile. Veltari citizens lined up in silence. Scanning stations were placed on every corner. Drones hovered above the crowds, recording everything. No one argued. Everyone was afraid. Not of the humans anymore. They were afraid of the enemy within. A young woman named Veltea stood in line, holding her child close. Her eyes were tired. She looked at the Deathworlder soldier stall. Silent, armored. She leaned toward her friend in the line. Do you think they're reading our thoughts? Her friend whispered back. They don't have to. They read everything else. When her turn came, a drone floated in front of her, scanned her body, her eyes, her ID chip. Then it moved on. Simple. Fast. Cold. The people called it safety, but it felt like control. Meanwhile, in the Deathworlder command center, warning alerts began to appear on the main screen. Arik watched as a long red list grew longer. Over 30 communication logs, tampered, hidden messages, disguised inside weather reports, power usage files, even school logs. All sent to one location, Council Sector 8, and one name kept appearing in the message chains. High Minister Delvan. He was a respected Veltari leader, part of the council for 20 years. He was also missing. Arik led the operation himself. They found Delvan in a private estate outside the city, surrounded by defense, drones and shield gates. But none of it stopped the Deathworlders. Their ships landed like thunder. Their soldiers stormed the walls. The drones tried to fire but were hacked in seconds. Inside, Delvan tried to run, but the moment he reached the back hallway, a black armored human stepped in front of him. Weapon raised. Delvan froze. His voice shook. White Eye can explain. The human didn't fire. He simply raised his wrist and scanned the official's face. Confirm match, a voice said. Level 1 traitor. Verified. Then came silence. Delvan dropped to his knees, back at the capital. Citizens gathered in silence as a public announcement began. Commander Arik appeared on screen. The war is not over. The enemy sent monsters to destroy this colony. But monsters don't work alone. High Minister Delvan has been arrested. He passed secrets to the enemy. He helped set the trap. He tried to end your world, before we ever arrived. Let this message be clear. Earth protects, Earth watches, and Earth remembers. Then the screen went black. No one spoke. No one cheered. They just stood still, realizing how close they came to total destruction, and how many more traitors might still be hiding. In the bunker. Relvon leaned over the table, hands shaking. Delvan was my friend, he said. He visited my home. We worked together for years. And all this time, Arik nodded. He smiled in your face and sold your planet behind your back. Why? Relvon asked. For credits, for power? No, Arik said quietly. For fear. Merrily blinked. Fear of who? Fear of us, Arik answered. The Council is terrified of what Earth has become, so they try to isolate us, trap us, erase us, Relvon whispered, and they were willing to sacrifice our whole world to do it. Arik stared at him. They would have sacrificed 100 more if it meant keeping Earth out of the stars. But now it was too late. Earth had come. Earth wasn't leaving, not yet. Later that night, deep beneath the city, Arik stood alone in the vault. He placed his hand on a screen, opening a locked chamber. Inside, 3 black cubes. Each one carried the same symbol, the Earth Defense emblem. Beside the cubes was a file labeled Operation Fullshade. He tapped the file open. It displayed names, coordinates, planets council, worlds. Council. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just stared. Then whispered, "You started this." Then he turned and walked out. Veltho Prime was quiet again. But it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm. People were rebuilding streets, clearing rubble, fixing power lines. But something was different now. No one looked to the sky with wonder anymore now. They watched it with fear because they finally knew the truth. The attack didn't just come from space. It came from betrayal. From the Council, from the stars they once trusted. In the underground Earth bunker, Commander Arik Gray stood before a war table with his top officers. The lights were dim. The mood was colder than ever. On the screen above them, hundreds of blinking dots showed Council military bases, listening posts, spy networks, all marked in red. Each one had ties to Operation Fullshade. Each one had blood on its hands. One officer, Major Wren, stepped forward. "The data we pulled from Minister Delvan's devices is clear, sir. The Council's plan wasn't just to test us." Arik didn't blink. "What was it?" Wren pointed to a blinking triangle near a star system named Grelithix. "This is a hidden base," he said. "Not marked on any official star charts. The logs say it was used to monitor Earth's colonies. But the truth is worse. He tapped again. A new screen opened. Arek's eyes narrowed. The base wasn't just a spy post. It was a breeding facility for the same shadow creatures that attacked Velthor Prime. There were hundreds, maybe thousands, created, bred, trained. Fed. The council. In the council chambers light years away. Councillor Thurvok of the Sarathi species leaned back in his polished seat. A long row of high-ranking leaders sat around him, cloaked in silks, glowing badges on their chests. A holoscreen hovered above the table, showing images of Velthar Prime Deathworlder warships, juggernauts, soldiers moving in perfect lines. Thurvok's voice was soft, but every word was poison. They didn't just respond to the crisis, he said. They took over. The humans now control Velthar Prime. Their soldiers act without permission. They control communication, energy, defense. They've installed a planetary governor of their own. One of the others spoke up. But the shadows, they saved the colony. Thurvok hissed. They didn't save it, they claimed it. Another asked, do we have proof of aggression? Thurvok smiled. But we will. Back on Velthar Prime, Arek stood in front of Governor Relvan and merrily, his tone was firm. We know the council has more facilities like the one on Grelith IX. Relvan looked shocked. You think they'll attack again? Arek nodded. No. I know they will. He turned the screen toward them. It showed blueprints of the facility, lists of species used for experimentation, even council orders signed by their generals. They bred monsters, Arek said, then used them, like weapons, Relvan whispered, against their own colonies. Against anyone Earth protects, Arek replied. Merrily stared at the images. So what now? Arek looked at them. We go on the offensive. That evening, a message was sent from Vel Prime to Earth's High Command. Encrypted, direct. It contained only one line of authorization. Bullshade protocol is active. Targets confirmed. Justice begins now. 3 days later, in the deep void between council space and neutral territories, something appeared. A black fleet. Dozens of ships. No flags. No names. Just one symbol, Earth's mark of silence and shadow, was Strike Fleet Orion, and it was headed straight for Grelith X. The council was not blind. Their spy networks saw the fleet, but it was already too late by the time they tried to send reinforcements. The humans had arrived. Above Grelith, Ike's council guards scrambled. Sirens rang out. Orbital weapons turned toward the sky, but they weren't fast enough. The first Deathworlder ship tore through the clouds like a spear. 2 more followed. Then 20 railguns fired from orbit, hitting targets with perfect precision. Command centers exploded. Landing pads vanished in fire. Inside the base, council scientists ran for shelter, but the Deathworlders didn't come to talk. They came to shut it all down. Permanently. On the surface, Lieutenant Reese led the ground strike. He moved fast through dark corridors filled with broken cages and strange growths. Inside, they found labs filled with shadow creatures and stasis, dozens still alive. Some had human DNA markers. Reese froze. Sir, they were mixing species. His commander's voice came through the burn it. The rooms were set with fire charges. Nothing would leave that base alive in a hidden chamber deep underground. They found one last thing, a council recording. It played on its own as they entered. A council general appeared. If Earth wants to play God of the Stars, let them. We will remind them that the galaxy has always been ours. Let them bleed trying to stop what we've begun. Ree stared at the screen. Then he raised his weapon and fired. The message ended. Back on Velthar Prime, Arek received the final report. The Grelith X base was gone. No survivors. All council data taken. The shadows wiped out. Relvan asked quietly, was it the right thing to do? Arek didn't answer for a moment. Then he said, it was necessary, merrily whispered. And what happens now? Arek looked at the stars above. They started a shadow war, he said. But they forgot one thing. When he turned toward them, humans fight best in the dark. News of Grelith X's destruction spread fast. By the next cycle, every star system in the Council's reach had received the message. Earth had attacked, not just defended, not just responded. Attacked. And worse. They had done it without hesitation. The Galactic Council chambers were thrown into chaos. Leaders shouted across the room. Some demanded action, others urged caution. A few simply watched, afraid. Councillor Thurvok stood tall in the center of the storm. We gave Earth too much freedom, he said coldly. They hide behind a fence, but they act like conquerors. They are building an empire under our noses. Another councillor from the yellowy species raised a shaky voice. They destroyed a facility that was never supposed to exist. That base violated a dozen galactic laws. Thurvok spun on her. And who built it? Not Earth. We did, and still they found it. Still they destroyed it. What does that tell you? No one answered. The. Arvok slammed his hand on the table. It tells you this. Earth is no longer afraid. And if we wait, they'll strike again. He lifted a data chip from the table. This is Project Skyhook. I say we activate it now. Back on Velthor Prime, Earth forces were rebuilding stronger defenses. But this time, it wasn't just shields and towers. Now, they were digging into space itself. Massive construction drones had arrived from Earth. They circled the upper atmosphere, weaving black metal frames into the sky. Within days, the first of 3 orbital platforms began to form. Governor Relvan watched from a high balcony as the structure grew larger each hour. Merrily stood beside him, uneasy. Do you think the Council will let this go? She asked. Ari Elven shook his head. No, they'll strike back. They have to. Inside Earth's local command hub, Commander Arik Gray reviewed the early reports. His intel officers had picked up strange movements from Council space. Convoys moving with no public record. New ships launching under secret names. Even civilian planets being evacuated. Quietly, it was a pattern, and Arik had seen it before. He called in his top officers and opened a private channel. We have reason to believe, he said, that the Council has activated a counterstrike operation. Major Wren frowned. You think they'll attack us here? No, Arik said. They won't come for Velthor Prime. Not yet. He tapped a glowing star on the map. They'll come for one of our colonies. Gasps moved through the room. The officer beside him asked, which one? Arik's face hardened. All of them. At Earth's high command, a priority signal came in intercepted by long-range stealth satellites. It was encoded, but Earth cracked it within minutes. Inside was a full fleet manifest. The Council had launched 35 warships. Destination Nova Terra, one of Earth's outer colonies. Population 1.2 million. Defenses minimal. Within seconds, Earth responded. The order was simple. Activate Protocol, Titan. Full fleet intercept. Show no weakness. In the darkness between stars, Earth's secret response fleet came to life. From the moons of Mars, from the hidden dry docks of Europa, from the belt stations orbiting Titan, they came. Dozens of black armored warships, silent, sharp, ready. Each one carried next-generation weapons, cloaked engines, and artificial intelligence. Fire control systems. This was not defense. This was revenge with precision. The Council ships reached Nova Terra 2 days later. They arrived expecting surrender. Instead, they found waiting Deathworlder cruisers, all powered and armed. The trap snapped shut. The battle lasted 11 minutes, only 11. Earth's warships moved like machines. No wasted fire, no wasted motion. Council destroyers exploded in controlled patterns. One by one, they fell. When it was over, only one Council vessel survived. Not by choice, by design. Earth let it go. They wanted a message delivered inside that surviving ship. The Council captain sat in silence, staring at the burn marks across his command deck. His crew whispered among themselves. Why didn't they kill us? He had no answer, until the final message arrived, transmitted by Earth just before they disappeared from the system. The first time, we were polite. The second time, we were fast. The third time, we won't leave anything behind. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, panic set in. Every voice argued. Some screamed for a ceasefire, others demanded full war. But one fact could not be denied. The humans were winning, and they were not afraid. Meanwhile, on Velthor Prime, Earth completed the first orbital platform. From the ground, it looked like a ring of glowing metal stretching across the sky. But it was more than just a station. It was a warning. Relvan stood watching it, arms crossed. Merrily whispered, "Do you think this is the beginning of a war?" Relvan replied softly, "No." He turned to her. "This is the end of the old galaxy." In the hidden halls of Earth's high command, new orders were prepared, targets confirmed, operations approved. And one directive burned across every screen. If they try again, let the stars burn. The galaxy had changed. It started with Velthor Prime calling for help. Now, hundreds of star systems watched in silence as Earth's fleets moved like storm clouds across the stars, silent, organized, unstoppable. The Deathworlders no longer waited to be attacked. Now they watched everything. Every border, every shadow, every breath. And when they struck, they did so with perfect control. Not for glory, not for revenge, but because they had learned something. Long ago. Kindness is a choice. Mercy is earned. And survival is war. Inside the Earth War Council, deep under the surface of Lunar Prime, The final plan was ready. Commander Arik Gray stood before a massive holodisplay showing every major council world. Behind him sat admirals, strategists, and Earth's top political envoys, but there were no cheers. No joy. Only silence. Arik turned to the others. They sent monsters to wipe out our people, he said. They used fear as a weapon. They turned peaceful colonies into traps. He paused. They lost. And now the galaxy is watching. He pointed at a small blinking icon. Council Central. The heart of galactic politics. A shining world. Untouched. Safe. Until now. One admiral asked, "Do we strike?" Arik shook his head. "No, we send a message." The next day, Council Central's skies darkened, not from clouds, but from Earth's ships. Thousands of them. Black holes, glowing cores, moving as one. They didn't fire. They didn't land. They simply hovered, blocking out the sun. Inside the council tower, panic spread. Security officers rushed into position. Planetary shields went up. Anti-orbital weapons powered online. Councillor Thurvok ran through the halls, demanding answers. What do they want? A communication officer turned from his station, pale and sweating. They're sending a broadcast to who? They're asked. The officer's voice trembled. To everyone, all systems, all species. In every corner of the galaxy, in warships, in city squares, in mining colonies and merchant stations. The message began to play. A black screen. Then Earth's seal appeared. A voice followed, calm, male, human. But filled with power. To the council and all who follow them, we did not start this war. We answered a cry for help, and in return, you sent death. You bred monsters. You planted weapons in our path. You sacrificed your own citizens to test our strength. Now, you know your answer. We are not invaders. We are not conquerors. But we do not forget, and we do not forgive. This is your last chance. Stand down. Disband the weapons labs. Remove spies from our colonies. Hand over every name tied to the shadow projects, or Earth will do what Earth has always done: survive by removing threats. The screen changed to a series of images. The Black Fleet destroying the Shadow Nest on Grelithix, the battle over Nova Terra, the Deathworlders walking through fire, the monsters Earth had defeated. Then the voice returned. You called us Deathworlders. You said our world was too dangerous. You were right. Now you face a choice. Peace under truth, or war under silence. You have 7 cycles to respond. Choose wisely, because we won't ask again. The screen faded, and the stars went quiet in the council tower. No one spoke. Some looked ashamed, some looked afraid, but none looked brave even. Thurvok sat down slowly and said only one word. We lost. Back on Veltha Prime, people gathered. In the streets they watched the stars above as Earth's ships hovered like guardians. For the first time, they felt safe, not because the council had promised it, but because Earth had earned it. Governor Relvon stood at a podium beside Commander Arik. Thousands of citizens watched. Relvon raised his voice. This planet called for help, and was answered not with lies or fear but with strength, with truth, with action. He turned to Arik. To Earth, we thank you, and we stand with you. The crowd cheered. Loud, honest. And somewhere, deep in the sky, a Deathworlder smiled, merrily. Stood by the balcony, watching the city lights below. She turned as Arik approached. You think they'll really surrender? Arik shrugged. They'll have to. And if they don't, Arik looked toward the stars. Then we remind them. Again, she smiled a little. I thought humans were the ones asking for peace. He nodded. We are. He turned away, but this time we ask. With a fleet. 7 cycles passed. The council met. And for the first time in history, they stepped down. Weapons labs were closed. Traitor names were given, and Earth did not celebrate. They simply returned to their colonies, kept watch and waited because the galaxy had learned something it would never forget. Asterisk. When Deathworlders answer a call for help, the stars will never be the same again. Asterisk.